opinion, the difference between digital and traditional art in terms of aesthetics. First, in traditional, most especially on the portraits that I do, which are mostly in oil, is that you can see the texture, the actual texture of the oil painting. I don't think you can actually achieve this in digital because the tactile quality of the oil paint is present all the time. So, because there are two kinds of textures, no, the actual or the tactile, and the visual or the fake texture. So to answer your question, I prefer the traditional painting because you can appreciate the texture of the portrait itself. So actually the creative process in portraiture is not so much because they don't really put concept on the painting itself, no. Because portraiture it is dependent on the picture that you're copying, right? I can say maybe the creative part there is when you paint the color mixing, on how you decide the size of the head or of the face on the canvas. Also, when I sketch the portrait, I do it in freehand. Most of the time, I do it with brush and paint. And there, I don't normally use a pencil when I do portraits, no, because I'm more I like it more sketching with brush. So I think that's the creative part in traditional portraiture. I think we shouldn't dichotomize digital to traditional because both are good medias for portraiture. Since we live in an evolving world, I think digital will be part of the creative tools for artists in the future. Just like oil painting now. Okay, artistic tips. Practice makes perfect. There. You have to practice all the time. Enjoy what you're doing. Most important, always be reminded that painting is a verb. Okay? You should enjoy the moment. Since it's an action word, you have to enjoy the moment while painting. When you're painting, don't think about the outcome. Don't think about whether people would appreciate it or not. Only enjoy the moment. Because when you enjoy the moment of painting, that's it. You're okay.
In my opinion, the difference between traditional and digital art in terms of aesthetics is very little. I'd say that differ more in terms of its process and the output itself. Tips when drawing in digital and traditional. As I've said earlier, the process in digital and traditional painting is practically the same but differs in the output. The tip would be when you draw a portrait, observe the subject carefully and break them down into its basic form. Observe every shape there is on the face and break it down into its very basic shape. For example, the nose, which is a triangle, the eyes, which is a leaf shape, somehow a leaf shape, and the face itself, well, it really depends because the shape, we have different shapes. So, there. One huge advice that I'd give for aspiring artists is that don't mind what people label onto your work. Just do your stuff, whatever that is. Don't be too sensitive in labeling your work as art or what. Because whatever that is, art or not, just do it if you love it and just practice whatever your craft is. And don't mind what other people think and do your best. That's it.
Personally, I find it slightly easier to do traditional portraits than digital portraits because number one, my senses are more stimulated when I do traditional portraits because it's not just the sight or it's not just the touch. There's also the smell, it's also the feel of the canvas, for instance, or the surface of the paper. And it's easier to be more involved in your work if more of your senses are involved. And another thing is that I learned to become more disciplined with traditional mediums because I don't have the luxury of Control Z. You can't just fill a canvas with enter backspace in Photoshop, and I become more concerned with cleaning, caring for my materials, and they become as important as the painting process itself. And lastly, I've noticed that in the local market, it's easier to sell traditional portraits than digital portraits. And in order for you to sustain your work and your materials, you kind of have to think about that as well. It's not impossible to sell. It's just that you have a wider audience when you do traditional portraits.
Creative process when creating digital art is first I look for a peg for the specific theme I have to work on. Then I try to look for as much reference as I can. Unless wala akong makitang reference, I shoot my own models. So I have my own reference for the anatomy. Then I proceed to sketch the whole painting. And then after that, I work on the values. When you say values, you work on the grayscale of your artwork. So that's all in the gray values. And then I run a color test before I finish working on the values of the whole painting. After the color test, I will finish the whole painting and add special effects like overlays and other layer magics. So in terms of traditional naman, my creative process would be, of course, look for reference then. And afterwards, sketch it on my canvas and then paint over.